Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people understand that life is better when you're dancing through it, but also to inspire healthy living around the world. My expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. We only get one body while we're here and we better take care of it because it's all we've got. And while we're here, we might as well be joyful and happy, right? And spread a little light and love in the world. So here we are with these conversations, and I love to talk to people that have interesting stories to share and that we can learn from. And I've had the honor and privilege of knowing a lot of different people from all different backgrounds. And I really believe that everybody has a story to share and we can learn from people even if we don't share the same culture, religious, political, social outlook on life. It doesn't matter. Keep our hearts open, keep our minds open, and everybody has a story to share. Well, today's conversation is with Kyle Richardson, who whenever we first got on Zoom, I'm like, oh, you're grown up, because I knew him as a little boy who was my little brother's friend from school and years behind me. And he and I both grew up in Farmington, Missouri, which is a small town south of St. Louis, Missouri. And Kyle was involved very much with football in high school here. And his parents, Jack and Susan Richardson, very highly connected in our town and very much into athletics. And your mom was part of the welcome wagon and, she pretty much knew everybody in town. So you grew up in this small town. You played on the football team here. You were very good at football here. You went on to play in college, and then you went to Europe to play football, right? And you ended up playing for the Miami Dolphins, the Seattle Seahawks, and then you went to a team called the Baltimore Ravens. And you didn't really do much with the Ravens, except, I don't know, a Super Bowl ring. Yeah.
That one?
So, yes, that's pretty cool. And you were a kicker. And so you're the guy that everybody's hoping these arms go up after you do your job, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. I was the other guy.
The long one that goes down there and tries to get it as far as possible, so they have to run it the longer distance.
That's correct. That's the punter, Julie.
That's the thing, is it doesn't matter if we know anything about the sport or not. I love watching football games, really, but
it's great for TV.
It is really great for TV. And so tell me a little bit about growing up in Farmington and all of the things that you did here that kind of helped you move on. And then we're going to talk about what happens when you're in a professional sport and then all of a sudden your body's not going to be able to do that any longer. And you have to have another place to go, another career to, get involved with. So tell us a little bit about your life, Kyle.
Thank you, Julie. And it's great to be on. I'm excited to talk to the audience of Southeast Missouri and everywhere else that hears this. But, my story is, from Farmington, Missouri. To be honest, Julie, everything I knew and know about life, I learned in Farmington. So this proved that a small town with the right structure, family structure, and helping you through your progression in life, it can happen anywhere. And it happened for me right there. So, for me, when I left Farmington, well, let me back up and start at Farmington High School. I played every sport I could. Wasn't an A student by any means, but I was probably a good B student. Some people might question that, but it was always important. My parents are right; they're both teachers by trade. My dad was the high school football coach, originally bringing him to town to Farmington, and has remained in the athletic scene for a long time there in Farmington and elsewhere. And he was a big part of me and my success on the football field. But I do have to owe it to my mom. I look at him uniquely nowadays, and I think back how, I personally benefited from two different types of personalities. One, very regimented and, always a taskmaster and had the vision of point A to point B. That's my dad. And then my mom, who very organized, very a taskmaster too, but more so the benefit of learning from her. And I didn't even know this until it kind of occurred to me when I got later in life, when I got into medical sales, and I started thinking, you know what, I can really engage people. Why do I engage people so well? And I believe it's because I listened to my mom on the phone call new people to town as the welcome wagon. And I listened, and maybe osmosis set in, but I could actually engage and build a rapport one-on-one, And so I just look at that and I say, you know what, that's probably what helped me along the way. I think back when I'm trying to get a scholarship in college and how I was able to get a coach to actually pay attention to me and in a team meeting room, be engaged in some different way and all those tricks, yes, I had the athletic ability to be on a college level doing that position, but there was a lot of the other places that took me along that, from my parents, they had both the skill sets that came together. And I think that was part of it. Along the way, I had individuals that, by chance, I didn't know I was going to be a punter in college, but when I was a high school
You were
senior.
a punter. I knew you were a punter.
Yeah, see, you knew it all along. Not that guy, the other guy. But yes, as it was. In fact, when I was in high school, I did that. I did the field goal kicking, but I was not the punter, right? So, and then I played all the other positions on the football field. I was a receiver and defense. I hardly ever came off the field. But what was interesting, my senior year in high school, Charles Kester, he's actually the guy that I got to thank for my punting career. That's who I say. Charles, I don't know where he is today, but how you doing, bud? He pulled a hamstring the senior year in high school. He was the original punter. He was the first string punter.
Okay.
So then I go in, right? And it just goes back to, hey, take on different roles, take on different things while whatever you're achieving. And I took on many other roles. I thought of myself as being the receiver and a defensive back, but I took on these other roles because quite honestly, I didn't want anybody else to do the role of kicking and because I didn't want to rely on anybody but myself,
Right.
to win, right? So as it works out, Charles is just better. He's stronger, kicking it end over end. Well, he gets hurt. And so then I came in and replaced and did okay enough that, at the end of that senior year, our coach, one of our coaches, Kyle Reed, says, you know what, Kyle, instead of going over and playing basketball at Mineral Area College, you think about walking on at Arkansas State. And that took me down that path. And I woke up one night in the house in Farmington thinking, as a 18-year-old, I could go 2 years to a junior college. I could go 4 years instead of 4-year place, maybe make it. Maybe I had an upside. I went to that. I had a scholarship for the junior college, but you know what? I took a risk.
Yeah.
And I went down that road that I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was a journey, but I figured it out. And then I landed a scholarship.
Right. And it sounds like, your mom taught you a lot about building relationships, not just rapport, because there's a lot to starting those conversations with people that are new or, that you're first coming in contact with, but it takes a lot to build relationships along the way, which you had to do with your teammates, with the coaches, with some of your fans, like different organizations that you were part of. And, I'm guessing that whenever you made it to the Super Bowl, that there was something different about that team, that it clicked, that you guys had that whatever it was at that point that let you guys get from point A to point B.
Yeah. Right.
Your dad was saying, focus, 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 but you had to have all those other pieces in place. So do you want to talk about the Super Bowl specifically?
I do, but let me take you a little bit on the rewind that leads up to the Super Bowl. My dad, football guy, typical, we got to run one play at a time, right? And what do you do in football? You run it as you're trying to get 10 yards at a time. So you go from point A to point B. And by the way, the ball gets handed off to the running back and he thinks he's going in one hole and it closes up. He's got to improvise and go a different way. That's pretty much how my whole athletic career went. You go in one way and then you go this way and you go that way. And you got to constantly always, work within ways around barriers, right? So
like different positions or different things about where you were.
So yeah, no, specifically thinking about how if I was going to get a college scholarship, how was I going to beat out 9 guys? How was I going to be in front of a coach? How do I win over certain people that say, you know what, you're our guy? There's a trust factor, right?
Right.
And you always just you gotta play it one play at a time. You got to think about your strategy, and things are going to change. I didn't expect that Charles Kester was going to get hurt and me be thrust into something that took me down a
Kind of
different
like
lane.
that Kurt Warner underdog kind of
I
story.
just saw that
At the high
movie,
school
and
level.
yeah, no, that's right. I just saw that movie, and I really appreciate more about Kurt Warner's story. That was amazing. And by the way, his first game was in 1999 when we played him, that Ravens team. I was punting in that game, so that was my
Oh,
first home game back into St. Louis, and
oh,
he went on for that year. Yeah, so it
wow.
resonated, and I saw my teammates out there on the film. So, but
Did
yes,
somebody play you in the film?
no, they didn't even think about me. Believe me, that's not going to sell anything.
Okay.
But what I was going to say was, that along the way, getting to the pros, there's these stepping stones. A Ray Perkins, who was a famous college coach, that came for some reason to Arkansas State for 2 years. He gave me my scholarship. I sat in front of the room thinking, this guy, he knows where I need to go. And I sat right in the middle so that he's in this team meeting room and I was a walk-on. He would have to look at me, look me in the eye and just say, who is that guy? Or just recognize me, something, just put a thought, right? And so I kind of whittled my way around, and within a year I had a scholarship, and I punted the next 4 years, and I'm in their college Hall of Fame. So, it all worked out there, but it started with taking those initial steps. And then I move on to getting into the World League. I called up Ray Perkins after he had left our college. I was graduating, didn't have a great senior year, but I called up Ray Perkins through a booster. I said, you got Ray Perkins' number. He was up at New England at the time, coaching for the New England Patriots.
Mhm.
And, he said, yeah, here's his number. And it was a direct number. It was a cell number. Ray picks up. Yeah. And very right, matter of fact, he was a very old school coach.
Uh-huh.
Kyle, I remember you. How can I help you? I said, can you get me to the World League? Yes, I can. I'll see what I can do. Click. Hangs up. That's it. Next thing I know, like 6 months later, I got drafted into it. Now, there were some other people along the way that helped me, but he was the biggest influence. And so, there's a whole story there that I ended up meeting Ray years down the road, but it was a personal connection. I eventually get myself into the NFL. I eventually go to Baltimore, and that starts this progression of the years leading up to the Super Bowl, which was my first year in 1998. I had a coach. His name was Scott O'Brien. And he ended up being the hardest coach ever. That he was trying to train me as a young guy, the professional way of, like, this is a meat grinder. You're going to be in the thick of this, and you better be ready. We're going to go with you because we believe in you. It was a circumstance where I became the guy. I was the second guy in camp. There was an incumbent, and there was an opportunity for me. And so that day that I got the word that, yes, I was going to be the guy and start the season, I remember Scott O'Brien saying to me, I'm going to clean this up too, what he said. But he said, Kyle, you can mess up once, but don't mess up twice, right? Don't mess up twice.
Just imagining what he might have said.
Yeah, right, exactly. But if you go to the principle of it, it's what I made my NFL career on for the next 9 years,
Right.
which was, yeah, you're going to have a bad one every once in a while. But
don't
I was always able to come back and put
Yeah.
that next one back in gear and do the right thing. And then everybody forgets about it. It's like, oh, you did your job. Okay.
Right.
I carried on that way and for 9 years. So that led me up to, kind of the next couple of years of getting to a place where I was scared to death my Super Bowl. That Super Bowl, I think all of us were. I've heard people talk about this. It's like for 2 weeks leading up to it, something in your gut is like, oh, God, you can't
is this
feel
real? What do I need to do? How is this going to work? Yeah.
Right. And I think that was for everybody. We're all at the top of the game, but one thing could go wrong, one play, and you don't want to be that guy. For me in that game, I didn't want to be the guy because I was the holder, right, for Stover, the kicker. And so when I got the ball, I just wanted to make sure that I gave him what they call laces straight ahead, laces out. I didn't want laces to the back. And Julie, believe me, when you give the hold the wrong way, the kicker looks at you first and says,
big difference,
"You
right?
screwed up." Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't want to be that guy. And so, because it was supposed to be a very tight game, back and forth, low scoring, everything would count. And as it worked out, we get out there, and one of the first plays was a field goal. So we get out there, everything kind of went back to the, after all the pomp and circumstance, everything went back to a game. And so then we were just playing a game like normal, like we were to a certain degree. And then when we got in the fourth quarter, and for myself, I was very active in that game doing the punts, because we had the Super Bowl record number of punts. It was back and forth, back and forth. Not a great game to watch unless you were a Ravens fan.
You did your job.
But I did my job, right?
Yeah.
And so they actually, there was a moment in that late in the fourth quarter that, there was like, wow, we're going to win this. We're going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to get this ring. And it was the biggest relief and the biggest party afterwards that I've ever had. And there was a lot of Farmington people there that I was able to get to that party, and it was quite fun.
Now, you're married and you live in Maryland with your 2 daughters and your wife. And did you meet her while you were playing for the Ravens?
I did. Yeah, we did. We met here when I came to town, and we dated for 7 years, and then I finally did the right thing. Got married.
Did the right thing. Well, I'm glad that you guys found each other, and that then you moved back to Baltimore area after living in Florida for a while. And we have like 3 minutes left because it always goes so fast. So do you want to talk about, like, I know that we wanted to really make it very apparent that it doesn't matter where you come from, that kind of thing, that if you have a goal, you can get there. But also this whole idea of when the first stage is finished of life and there's a second stage that you need to step onto and do the next thing. Right. How did you transition from professional football player into, what your company does now? So if you could talk a little bit about that in 2 minutes or less, go.
Okay. No, I think every football guy that has a career longer than, the average, which is 3 years, you get into this kind of rhythm and you start to realize that in year 5 and 6, I got a little bit of money. You start thinking about your future. And, maybe this does come to an end. I started that progression in my own mind about 5 years in. And, I would say that even though I had, a good thought lane, and I was always decent with my money, I didn't know what I was going to do after I was done, because you just keep playing right up to it.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. And you don't know when you're over, when over is over. And so, I did stay in Florida for at least a year. If I had to do it again, what I would have done in this reset was go get my MBA right away, because you're 2 years for 2 years after you're done football, you're really not going to be improving yourself financially. It's just a loss. And if I had to do it again, there were programs to go back and get an MBA and then start this progression. I had enough money saved. I could have done that, but I went right into some businesses and I had success. But then there was one that, when I first came back to Baltimore, I did it for 2 years. I was like, you know what, this is not what I want to do. So I switched. And I just feel like I didn't have enough of a time to really think through critically who I was, what I wanted to be, and where I was going. And what happened was I ended up getting there 2 or 3 years after retirement and saying, you know what, I'm going to be thinking about my environment, where I am. I graduated with a graphic design degree, nothing to do with business. But then again, you know what, if you look at graphic design, it's pitching a product. Sure. So I think I was a good salesman. So I went into medical sales, invested in a small medical company that would develop along the way. And I was working 2 jobs at the same time. 4 years later, I'm in that new company, that startup company, and we're doing really well today. We're in the call center business, remote care, telehealth.
That's called Caring One?
It's called Caring One. Yeah, we're based out of Baltimore, Towson, Maryland area. And we have employees all over the world right now. So it's pretty fun.
Great. Yeah, that's so great. And what I love is that you found something that you enjoy, because a lot of times people will just go do something that they're good at.
Right.
I'm good at this, I guess I'll do it. And they just spin their wheels and they keep doing it.
Well, what's interesting, Julie, is that, again, it's like this understanding of what my mom, I learned a long time ago with her talking on the phone. I can manage people. I know how to, build a rapport. And so that's what I'm doing in my post life. I just needed to figure out my own vehicle. What was my vehicle that was going to allow me to do that? I didn't really think about it, but now I do.
Right. Well, that's great because a good salesperson in anything is finding out what the other person's actual need is and then finding out if what you offer fills that need. And when
Yeah.
it does, it's a perfect match. And then it's just up to you to keep providing the service. And it sounds like you guys are, and you're doing great things. And so that is so fabulous. Do you have any last words you'd like to share with whoever might be watching this? I always say the 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, or whoever might stumble across this one day.
Well, there's a lot of people, a lot of friends and family that I should thank. Probably too many to take through a list right now. For me, any young guy or gal that is sitting right there in Farmington, Missouri, or elsewhere, small town, think about my story. Show, I hope I can be an influence that they'll see there if they want to. Maybe they just want to stay there and have a great life in their town, and that's great, and find a way to be successful. But I wanted to test the boundaries, and hopefully I can be an influence that other young people can do that too. And
Yeah,
they'll
that's so
take
great.
some ideas that, what I'm sharing with you guys.
Well, thank you so much for sharing just a portion of your story. I know that you have so many more things that you could be talking about, and we just appreciate you taking a little bit of time out today to give us a glimpse, just a glimpse.
Yeah, no, it's true. I will say that we have the 30 on 30 ESPN is going to come out soon, profiling our Super Bowl team. So
Oh,
if you
great.
guys want to look at that, that'll be kind of a
Wait, when
fun.
will that be?
It's a good question. I think it's coming out during the football season. You know
Oh,
how they hold everything, Julie, to
sure.
make an impact?
So sometime like September, October,
Yes, I
probably.
think it's a fall release.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
30 on 30, 2000 Super Bowl.
I will make sure I put that in the text as well so people know what that says.
All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Julie, have a great day. Thank you so much for having me on.
Bye.